Here's my motorized trike. It started from a bike I found on my grandpa's farm. It's a quite unusual bike due to the fact it's a tricycle, but I kind of figured that would make it all the more interesting. So it's a little more than just a normal tricycle. I fitted a 49cc horizontal Honda motor. I found it on an old dirt bike. I bought it for about $100. Wasn't running. I changed the oil, adjusted the valve, put a new carb on it. Has a PZ19 carb on it. Changed the spark plug, stuff like that, and it fired right up. It's running really well. I have about 2,000 kilometers on it now. It's a really good little motor. Because this is all made by me, there's a lot of different parts that I found, kind of off random things to make it all work. So like I said, the motor's off of a little 50cc dirt bike. It's a Honda clone, 49cc. Gas tank's off a Honda generator, holds about a gallon. Have kind of a makeshift intake there. It's just a normal filter with some flexible plumbing attached to it to make it stick out the side, because it wouldn't fit under the frame. I modified the exhaust. I used the stock exhaust here, and then you'll actually see that there's 3/4 inch plumbing fixtures. So I welded those up to the stock exhaust, and it exits right out the back there. Not the prettiest thing, but it works. So that about covers it for the engine. So obviously there's other upgrades I had to make so that because it is now a vehicle basically, it didn't come with any brakes. I had to upgrade the brakes. So there's no brakes on the rear. However, I have this quite overkill setup on the front. It's two 8-inch discs. Mountain bike discs, all bicycle parts, with two Avid mechanical disc brake calipers. So I got one mounted on the back there for the first disc, and for the second disc I have it mounted on the front there. I couldn't really mount it any other way. I know the braking force pulls it this way, however, what can you do? So and of course you can't find a fork with two disc mounts on it, so I got a chromoly fork, so that's steel. So I cut out little tabs and welded them on. So that's about the modifications to the fork and the whole braking system right there. I can get away with lots of brakes on the front here because of all the weights to the back, so you're not going to have to worry about doing a stoppie or anything like that. Since it's mechanical, I had to get a special handle here. It just has two inputs, and they just work together. You can adjust them accordingly. I have them adjusted pretty well right now. The front wheel, you can lock it right up at speed, which is good and bad, but whatever. So the rear of the drivetrain here, as you see, it has a fairly thick axle there, so I went to, it's a 7/8 inch axle. I went to a local farm supply, Princess Auto, got a number 40 sprocket for the rear end. That's a 48 tooth sprocket, and I think the front's at 12, so it's 4-to-1 reduction. So like for a bike, that's a pretty beefy shaft, so it can handle the power excellently. I also upgraded the bearings there, as you can see, the flange mount bearings, and then the rest is just how the axle came. I did have to weld these plates on here to move the whole axle backwards, because the axle was right in the middle of this plate before and on some kind of wimpier bearings, so I moved the whole thing back so that I could accommodate that sprocket, or else it would collide with this bar. But the drivetrain's pretty good. It would be nice to have a chain tensioner, however I don't really want to bother, so I just kind of replace the chain when it gets loose. And for the price of the chain, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I think it's like 10 bucks for 10 feet of it, and this is well less than 10 feet of chain. Finally, we have the well, actually two more things. We have a electrical system and the storage compartment. They're kind of together. So electrical system, got a normal bike speedometer to tell me the speed. I have the keep track of how many kilometers I've put on. Accidentally reset it so it's not 2,000, but I actually have put 2,000 kilometers on the bike. Okay, so here's a brake switch. Basically just tells if the brake's tripped. It's just a momentary switch. When you let off on the switch, it completes the circuit. So I added a little LED indicator so I know when the light's on, just in case something went wrong. Over here is the kill switch, just from the motorbike, and the throttle. They're straight off the motorbike. They fit perfectly on the handlebars. And we got the headlight. The bulb looks a little funny. It's actually an LED bulb. Instead, like, the reason why I went this way is because I have such a small battery, and the normal, like, this is just a standard fog light. The normal fog light bulb uses 55 watts. This uses 5 watts, so it's considerably less. So that was just the best way to go. My battery lasts way longer now. So just the wiring behind there, I just kind of taped it all together. Since this is DC, obviously, I just have chassis grounding. So I just made sure the grounds were pretty solid, and it works good. No problems with it, anything tripping out or anything. And here's my headlight switch. So just turns on the headlight, turns off the headlight. Pretty simple. Also, when you turn on the headlight, it has park lights on the back. They just turn on dim when you turn on the headlights, and it's kind of hard to tell in the day. And the brake's still operational. And also, those are LEDs, so they consume quite a low amount of power, but they're also very bright for their size. So moving on, they just kind of, it's all routed through there. The throttle cable also goes through there. Then there's just the engine electrics kind of all tucked up there. I didn't touch those at all. And then the wires disappear into the box, which is very handy. It's like quite a large storage box. My friend had made it for me. Did kind of some upgrades on it. I got some foam on the edge here. It's actually waterproof. I can ride in the rain. Well, when I get stuck in the rain, I just drive my car when it's raining. It's not worth it to drive in the rain. You get soaked, but nothing in here gets wet when you're in the rain. So it comes in, goes straight to the battery. It's kind of hard to tell from the sunlight here. And then this is just goes to the main chassis ground. So there's wires coming back here. Those are just for the rear tail lights. And there's a relay there. That's just for the brake switch, since I have the switch to cut backwards to activate the brakes, and it just kind of equals out, and it gives a nice clicking noise, so I know the brakes are working. That's a pretty big box. I can fit quite a lot of stuff in there. I could fit a couple backpacks in there or whatever for school, which is what I use this for most of the time. Kind of gets me around by a parking pass. And finally, I just got a little 1-watt solar panel to maintain the battery. It works well if you keep the bike outside, but otherwise it doesn't really do a whole lot. It still helps out a little bit. So I think I about covered it.